Hello BookTube, this is Weekly Reads. I had a interesting reading week, although I can't necessarily say whether it was positive or negative because one of the books is for the BookTube prize and I'm not going to give any indications of whether my opinions on it at this time for fear that it could influence the other judges. So when I get to it, I will just say I've read it. But first, let's talk about the books I read over the weekend. So I finished The Killing Moon by N.K. Jemisin on Saturday. I started it on Friday and I read it on most of it on Saturday. I didn't care for this at all. And it's, there's just, obviously N.K. Jemisin is the most important author of science fiction and fantasy working today. And she has a new book coming out towards the end of this month. And in Britta Bowler's March TBR to be released video, she mentioned this as the City We Became, which the next N.K. Jemisin book, as the science fiction and fantasy book she's looking forward to. And I had expressed my excitement as well, because a new N.K. Jemisin book is cause for excitement. But at the same time, I've honestly never really have gotten on with her work. I've read or started the first book in all of her series, 100,000 Kingdoms, The Killing Moon, the 5th season, years ago, and like 100,000 Kingdoms, I build after the first chapter. The Killing Moon, a few years later, build after the first chapter. The 5th season, which at the time I owned, I build after the first chapter. Now, oftentimes I do build on a book and then go back and reread it and love it. This has happened with The Thought That Comes Before, part of the Prince of Nothing series by R. Scott Baker, The Scar by China Mieville, The Blood Print by Asuma Zehanat Khan, several others have happened. And then there are times when I've tried a book and I've bailed and I've tried on it and I've tried it, and I've bailed several times and I'm like, okay, it's time to stop. But anyway, I've never gotten on with her work, even though I have collected it. I bought the omnibus edition of the Inheritance trilogy. I've bought all the books in the Broken Earth trilogy. I bought How Long Till Black Future Month, her collection of short fiction. And I did enjoy when I read How Long Till Black Future Month. Some of the stories in there, I think like 4 or 5 that I thought were really good. And that one of those was Narcomancy, which inspired me to pick up the Dreamblood duology towards the end of last year. And I really wanted to read her sometime in February or March before The City We Became came out, and I settled on The Killing Moon. And the same problems I had when I came in with the first chapter was there. I think ultimately if I'm blanking on her name right now. Which is annoying. If Sunandi was the main protagonist and not Ehuru, if Sunandi pretty much was the main antagonist. I mean, main protagonist. Sorry about that. Like her story works brilliantly. I mean, her story works brilliantly. But Ehuru, he would have worked so much better, I think, as the main antagonist, the sort of the Darth Vader of the piece. But as it stands, it's weird, and I don't think it quite works. And the whole sort of politics of Gujarat, the conflict between the Sunset Prince and his warmongering, and the Hatawa and their decades or centuries of control of the city. And then the whole sort of thing where, it just doesn't quite work. And I'm rather disappointed about that. So, the Dream Blood, which kept up the bit of a slump, I guess. Although, I mean, had, like, something been different had been done with Ehuru, I think the book might have been better. But as it's just, ugh. Anyway. So on Sunday, I read Death on the Nile by Agatha Christie, and I enjoyed it immensely. It is one of my favorite Agatha Christie novels. I actually rather focused a lot more on Poirot's matchmaking than I did somewhat the main mystery. But anyway, so I really did greatly enjoy Death on the Nile. And I also read over Monday through finishing a few minutes ago, Me by Elton John. Again, this is for the BookTube Prize, so I cannot speak about my opinions on this book. I will be filming a review on Monday, or discussion on Monday, and I will upload it when the results for this round are announced. And also discuss it a bit in a general reaction video to the results in my group. So anyway, put him over there because he's got to go with the new books. I have a little, part of my bookshelf where I put new arrivals, and towards the end of the month, when I do a haul, I'll put them in my catalog, and then put them on the shelves. Anyway, so now what am I going to be reading this coming week? I'm going to be, probably for Marsathon, be reading Princess of Mars in this edition. This has, I think, 5 of the 7 Barsoom novels, so be reading that. Hopefully I have better luck with a Princess of Mars this time than I have the previous times I've tried to read it. Again, bailing within, I think, the 2nd chapter. Anyway, or if not, you will get a rant next Friday. I'm also wanting to read Hickory, Dickory, Dock. Again, one of my favorite Agatha Christie novels. And, see if I can do this. Probably a James Bond novel. I'm thinking either Diamonds Are Forever or Goldfinger, I think, is what I want to read. Anyway, although I kind of also want to just read all of the Bond novels, or at least the Ian Fleming ones. I mean, there are several lines of continuation novels. So Ian Fleming wrote the first batch, and then when he died a few years later, Kingsley Amis wrote Colonel Sun, and then in the 70s and 80s and into the 90s. John Gardner wrote a series of continuations, and then Raymond Benson succeeded him in the early 2000s. And then I think it kind of, the series kind of went into abeyance, and there's some newer ones and some more retro ones by various artists lately. I haven't really kept up with that. And I also want to read The Blue Eye by Asuma Zehanat Khan, the third book in the Khorasan Archive series. I'm also planning on Friday, depending on what happens. I do have The Yellow House, the final book in my group of the BookTube Prize. I got it requested on the library. It should be coming available early next week, and I'm planning on going to the library Friday to pick it up. And hopefully that will be the first book I touch on Friday, although it will be obviously more of a library haul than, because again, won't be able to talk about it until March 31st or April 1st, depending on how things go. And I might, have a rather interesting library haul beyond that book. If it looks like it's going to be a little bit late, I might just go ahead and buy it, in which case I'll mention it in a Friday read or weekly reads, and then pretty much what I've done with the other books I've been judging for the BookTube Prize. So anyway, I think that's all I've got for now. Hope everybody has a good reading weekend, and I will see you again on Monday. Have a great weekend, BookTube.